Hi, and welcome to the Faith Building Podcast, episode 58, with your lovely and amazing host, Vladi Kuna.
And Norman Gräter. Hi, guys.
Hello. Today's topic is self-leadership. We just had to laugh again because Vladi's kids quite had some party in the house. And maybe you heard that in the last episode. We just record two, we are very honest. And you see, we did not change. Why? Because it's totally okay not to play something. No, we are real. It has to do with self-leadership, our topic of today. And actually, before we dive in, I want to start with the end. I'm just being reminded of a podcast I heard the other day, a German podcast, and the host asked his guest, and I heard the question before, and I love the answer of the guest. He said, if you would forget everything, if you would have Alzheimer's tonight at midnight, you would forget about everything, you would basically have an empty mind when you wake up tomorrow morning. Would not recognize anything, everything would be brand new. You could write yourself a little post-it note tonight to give yourself one advice, one tip, one sentence, whatever. What would you write on this post-it note to remind yourself tomorrow of whatever you think is important? And of course, the question triggered my own mind, and I thought, what would I write on that? And I bounced back and forth some ideas, and then the guest answered quite fast. He said, I would write on the little post-it note, it's a good world. It's a good world. And I really love that. And maybe you wonder now, what does this has to do with self-leadership, and why do you say it's the end of the talk? Because at the end of the day, and at the end of our talk today, you will realize that whatever you think about yourself in this world, and whatever you think about the world, will determine how good or bad your self-leadership works. Because you have kind of a determining question within your heart, soul, mind, and your mind is constantly checking, am I fulfilling this or not? And the moment you think it's a good world, you can see and believe in the good in this world, and you can focus on the things that are important to you rather than watching the news, listening to the news and thinking, oh my God, we don't have anything to say, we have no chance to turn this around, and you just feel as a victim. And this means self-leadership goes out of the chimney right away. So therefore, ask yourself, you could write yourself a little post-it note, would it make sense that yours also says it's a good world? What do you think, Vladi?
I love it, Norman. And I have to go straight to our friend from Hollywood, Dr. Mark Wallace, who's reminded me of a story of Dr. Wayne Dyer. And Dr. Wayne Dyer was telling a story about somebody moved from an area, and he said, well, and they've asked him, it wasn't his life, but he was telling the story. So he said, oh, I'm new in town, so what do you think of this town? And the person said, oh my God, it's terrible, and everything's too expensive, and people are just mean, and they never say good morning, and it's just been so much better where I used to be, and I just don't like it. You know, they would pick on the negative and bad things they didn't like. And then the person just went along and asked another person in the town, saying, well, I just moved in, I'm new in town, what do you think of the town? Like, oh, it's been amazing, it's very family-based, and I love how kind people are, and everything's just so much kinder and better, and you know, people, you can reach out to anyone, people will be supportive, like I'm in love in this town. And I think there were 2 or 3 of them, but the moral of the story is, he said, it's who you are and how you vibrate, that's what you see. If you're a person who wants to find kindness, that person will find it everywhere. You will find the kindness absolutely everywhere. If you see mean people and people are cheaters and they just trying to steal from me, you will find them everywhere as well. It's where energy and focus goes, that's where the energy flows, because it is the law. And that brought me to self-leadership, is what kind of leader do you want to be? Somebody asked me this because we're teaching with Norman. We're actually in our group, I'm doing a group with the universal laws, and somebody said, well, if the universal laws and God or universe works, so how come there is a hunger, or how come, you know, like there's murders and crime and so many ego-driven rich people? And I said, well, it's what you want, you will find. If you keep looking for ego-driven people, now that's not to say there aren't any. Yes, be aware of it, but it's you. Who do you choose to be in this world? We can all sit here and start complaining, because trust me, there are so many things we could all complain about in the world, but we can equally sit here and start talking about what changed and what is really getting better. And it's that part which even I sat there and I was sitting thinking, okay, what are the things I'm getting upset about? Because those are the things I have to let go and really shift to be the person I desire to be. And really for you is self-leadership. I have to go back to what Bob Proctor said. What is discipline? And he used to say, I always say, give yourself a command and follow it. Greatest leaders are the greatest students. People who were able to follow somebody's advice and grow through themselves, self-discipline and the persistence, are the greatest leaders. Why? Because if you can't follow, you're never going to lead greatly. Are you a good follower? But when I'm saying follower, doesn't mean you're going to now fish out, find 10 mentors and try and be. No, it's find one person who can get you where you would love to go. Because we all need, to get to the higher level, you find the expert in a field. You find someone who's done it before and who knows how to do it. Why? Because they're going to scrape money, time, and energy of you have to do it in 5 years. You can scrape it and do it, let's say, in a year or much faster with the help. But are you a great follower? Because if you want to be a great leader, you have to be follower, and especially following yourself. How fast can you switch? How can you focus on responding instead of reacting? How can you see the good world that Norman's talking about as opposed to the bad world? Because, there are so many things happening in the world now, we could literally label it bad. But where is your energy going? Because we feed this negative stuff that's happening in the world with us. We put the news on. If you're watching a news, why? Why wouldn't you choose to do something in your life that actually fuels your mind and body and spirituality and makes you happier? You must be upset the minute you put the news on, because that's like a bad news all over it. It's like from a crime to a crisis, and you watch it for 10 minutes and you literally feel like, oh my God, shall I go and get myself a gun? We live in a country where we're not allowed guns, but like what they feed your mind, it really activates fear and worry and doubt. Somebody likes to manipulate and control people through doing that. So be aware and just really choose to self-lead, because your purpose here, if you weren't here, the whole universe would be out of order. Our friend Susanna told us that. And it's how amazing is it? You may think how small you are and you're nobody and you're not doing as great as you would have wished for. But are you stepping up to your standards and living your purpose and really showing up with all the full power that is inside you, and you're just probably not using it? Norman.
I totally agree. And I want to say great leaders are not born and great leaders are not created, but great leaders grow out of the right environment. Do you have the right environment to follow your own orders, what Vladi just said? Not just follow orders that other people give out. Can you follow your own orders? If you say, I skip dessert today, and the moment you see other people having dessert, you say, maybe not. This is not leadership. This is just, I change my mind all the time. Are you a self-leader? Can you give yourself a command and follow it? What Vladi mentioned earlier. She also mentioned vibration, and I was thinking about the vibration and writing affirmations down, and I realized something last week. You can write 1 trillion affirmations. It will never ever tell you if the vibration you have inside is on your side. Because let's imagine you're sick and you write down, I'm healthy, I'm healthy, I'm healthy. Every time you write it down, the little voice in your mind says, no, you're not. No, you're not. But you don't realize that. It flows out through your hand. It flows on paper, but you don't feel the resistance. The moment you speak it out, you can feel the resistance. If I tell you now, say the sentence, I am, and then you can add rich or healthy or joyful or in the best relationship ever. Just say it out with as much power as you can. And you will realize in an instant how you feel inside, even in the moment you still speak it. And this is the vibration that goes automatically out, law of attraction. It's not what you want and what you desire or what you write down. It's the vibration you have within. But you need to realize that. Otherwise you trick yourself and you probably think you are further ahead than you really are. And Vladi mentioned something before we come back to this topic earlier, like be nice to yourself, be nice to other people. Being reminded of this podcast again, before the question was popped with the little post-it note, the host had a different question. He said, if you could be Chancellor of Germany not for a day, but if it would start tomorrow at 9, what would you change? And this guest he had was so amazing. He said, I would give everybody a credit card with unlimited amount of money. Every German would receive a credit card with an unlimited possibility to shop. So the host was a little baffled and said, okay, why? Then the guest returned it and said, what would you do tomorrow if you would have a credit card like that? And the host said, I would do the same because he loves what he does. And what do you do in 2 days? I would do the same. He said, what do you do in 3 days? He said, I would do probably the same. And he said, and I'm sure in 3 days you would go shopping because your fridge might be empty after 2-3 days. Now something interesting might happen the moment you go into the shop because nobody would work there anymore. Because if everybody has an unlimited credit card, all the jobs that people do just to pay the rent would no longer be in existence because people would say, I don't need to pay the rent. I can pay it with my credit card and I use my day somewhere else. But maybe 1 or 2 people would work in this shop. And now it turns out very interesting. If you go in and you are not nice to people, they would not sell you a thing because they don't need your money anymore, because they also have their credit card. They would work there just for the fun, and they would like to work and have customers that are great people, that are funny people, open people, friendly people, nice people. They would not treat the a-holes anymore. The ones that say, I have the money and you have to do what I tell you because you're the server, would not work anymore. And by this idea with the credit card, our world would change because the a-holes, the not so nice people, would have to learn how to be nice again. Because wherever they would go, they would find people, they would love their job, and they would not do it for the money, and they would not do it just because they need the money to pay the rent or the car or the gas or the food. They would have unlimited amount of money. Therefore, the world would turn into a better place. And I'm telling you the story because it's a key issue of self-leadership. How about you start being nice first to yourself and then to other people, but it has to start with yourself. You cannot start treating everybody nice in your surrounding and you treat yourself like crap. Again, law of attraction, you get more of the vibration you send out, how you see yourself in the world. Think about a post-it note. How you see yourself in the world, how you see the world in general. So just be nice to yourself, and this is the most important thing in my mind, to start with self-leadership. Can I be nice? Can I be forgiving, even though I might not master it tomorrow, or I might not master it in half a week? But again, like our friend Esther Hicks said in Amsterdam when Vladi and I were there, she said, you will never be able to close all the loops. Every wish, every desire you have opens a new loop. Which means you're hungry now, opens a new loop, then you eat something. And after you ate, this loop is closed, but now you're thirsty. Now you want to drink something, this opens a new loop. Then you drank something, then you might use the bathroom, opens a new loop. And after the bathroom, you might want to go shopping or drive back home or visit a friend or go online. Always when one loop is closed, another loop is open. And if we know that we will never master to close all the loops before we die, why do we rush? And maybe that's another idea about self-leadership. Why don't you stop and smell the flowers on the way? Because there's so much more way than stepping over this finish line of your goal achievement. And this I had to learn because I thought it's always about goals, it's always about achievement. And this means that my self-leadership was always drawn to comparison, to I have to be better, I have to run after the next one, I have to get that, and when I have that, then what? Then the next one will come, and the next one, and I will never ever get it done. So maybe a good idea to self-lead yourself in a much better way. Just be nice to yourself, be nice to other people, and take your time and enjoy the journey. What do you think, Vladi?
You know, I love what you were saying. It brought me to something I've seen this week. It was a guy who had like a rescuers. There were lots of hands out of the water. Obviously, they were sort of like looking like they sinking. And the guy held, you know, the ring, the yellow and white ring. And it said, sometimes the equal distribution doesn't help anybody. And he cut the ring, you know, the part red, wide, red, wide, red, wide, and trying to throw that piece of the ring to every person who was sinking. Well, unless he throws the whole ring to one person and pulls them out, everybody having that one piece is actually not going to survive. It really caught my attention because I loved the idea that it really sometimes when we self-lead, those leaders who have much bigger vision in their head, not for themselves, but just see themselves as the higher power is using you to and through you to achieve something greater and grander than you here. And that's why there are so many people who are very high achieving. But again, self-love is the huge thing. There's so many leaders out there who have no self-love whatsoever, or at least they look like it because of the actions they take and the words they speak. I mean, the actions are much powerful than the words. But really think about this, because when you look at that, self-love leads you to self-respect. It's the way you talk into yourself, and it's the self-worth. And if you're worthy, then you don't need other people to fuel your worthiness. You know, it doesn't matter what other people think or say about you. You come from this certainty. And that's why when leaders speak with certainty because they truly believe, because they went through it, people believe them. Why? Because energetically there's a connection of truth. And if there are all those blubbers and people get upset about it, but they even adding to those to win, because if you get upset about something, you're equally giving power to the other side. So it really is important. And it goes back to what I always remember when one of our mentors told them, if you met yourself, would you love yourself? Knowing you, because nobody knows you the way you know yourself. No one. There's this deep inside feelings, opinions. I mean, we're almost acting in the movie, right? In the real world, in front of everyone. To a certain point, yes, it's part of our character, but we have our seventh secret room or whatever they call it. Nobody ever knows everything about you because nobody can get inside of your head and really think and feel what you truly feel and think, but you vibrate it. So there are things that are happening and we vibrate them. And it's not always the case. And I want to point it out because many people mention it in a coaching. Oh, something bad happened to me, but I've been doing amazing things this year. There is a law of cause and effect. Just because something didn't work out, it doesn't mean we're necessarily being mean or bad, because spiritually, the gurus are saying sometimes you have to go through the challenging bad things because you're growing into someone greater and grander. It's not necessarily as here's your tough lesson and go through it. It isn't. It isn't always that. It's sometimes we chose to overcome something and we have to go through the toughness to really grow, because you do not grow through easy stuff. You don't grow through success. Success is literally a reflection of many failures. Failure is opportunity to grow. It's when the things don't work out and we put through all the growth, that's when we grow into the great leader. And I love what Norman said, you are not born as a great leader. You know, that's a misconception which all days was told into royal families and everyone, well, because they're holding on the status. But status doesn't necessarily mean the greatness of leadership. It's you can become a great speaker. If you speak the truth and from your heart, all you need to do is find someone who can tune things into. Yes, we have to. I'm working on my voice in speaking. You know, like, yes, we can become a better speaker, definitely, because then message gets crossed different and more powerful way. But you have to grow into a great leader, and you grow through it by going through all these challenges. I mean, would you love to be coach? It was when I went to, and I remember it was like a webinar to help parents, like with how to handle serious sort of emotions of kids. And this lady who was running it doesn't have a kids. Automatically loses authority. Is like, hold on a second. If you're not a parent, you have no idea. While you may go by the books, no disrespect to people, and you can give us a very many valuable points of psychology and the point of a view of a studier or anything. Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying, but really, as a parent, you can think you've mastered it all, and as every one of us who is a parent can tell you, you're expecting things and you think, okay, I've mastered this, yes, and then it just goes and it's just complete, and you're like, you never can do things right. Sometimes you feel like everything you try is just not working because it depends on the vibration of your child, the vibration of the day, or what's happening energetically in the day, reaction, responses, what's going in their little heads, like there are so many factors, and you can never match the entire factors that's going on, vibrational factors of the parent of the child. Never. It's just so we can give advices what works and doesn't, but it's not going to work for every single person. The same, we can give you advice what we do and really helped us in terms of mindset and coaching. And that's why I say I love the one-on-one coaching, because it's tailored, because every person is completely different. So I hate these days, and I shouldn't use the word hate, but I'm going to say it lovingly, to just throw one program out there and it doesn't fit. It's not a shoe that fits all. It's a little bit, somebody has it wider, somebody has it longer, somebody has, like tailoring the program. The core can be the same and similar, but then you have to really mark it and tweak it and mold it to every different person differently. So leading yourself is the number one thing, and kids and your environment or your teammates or your school, anyone, if you're leading a business or team, they're watching you. And that's the true leadership. It's not what you say, it's what you do and how you show up every day, how you handle the problems. They don't pay attention to what you say. Kids become resistant to what we say to them, especially teenagers. I mean, Norman can tell you his story, but mine, I feel like it doesn't matter what I say, it's always wrong these days. Teenage, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I laugh. It's not even funny, but I laugh. I feel like I'm arguing in a courtroom, my own case, and losing most of the times every single day. But it's part of the growth, because it's not always blaming yourself that you're doing something wrong. It really depends on the states. But how do you respond to it instead of reacting? And how do you really lead yourself in the whole shebang? And it may not have the outcomes you desire, but it will have the better outcomes in the longer term, because not everything is immediate. Norman, getting it to you to close and talk.
Your goals should be concrete and your plans should be basically sand, flexible, like we spoke in last episode 57 about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, especially when you speak about kids, Vladi. You make plans, you have goals, but the way to reach those goals are sometimes different than you thought, because you're acting with other human beings. It's great that you make plans, but if your plans are concrete, you will run into the wall quite soon. Have a fixed goal where you want to end up, and then just on the way, learn different ways and paths that you want to go. And to close today's episode, I want to close it with a quote that I have from Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed in Rocky. And many years ago when I met him, I always asked the celebrities that I met the same question as what's most important to be successful in life? And I was expecting a great answer like from all the others, and he was shouting at me, everybody is asking me the success question and what's necessary to be successful. And I thought, oh, it's gonna hit me. I mean, Apollo Creed, hello. And he said, there's not this one way how to be successful. There's your way how to be successful. And this wraps up basically everything that Vladi just shared. If you want to get forward in life, get a one-on-one coach. Like we offer one-on-ones like so many others, because like Vladi just mentioned, it's tailor-made, it's custom-made. Of course you can do a video and online program, but it's based on the ideas that we have. Are they matching your way? We don't know when we record the video, because there are 8.2 billion people on this planet and we cannot make one video that fits all. But in a one-on-one, it will fit. because we can feel and sense your energy and support you on the way to lead yourself much, much better. And just remember, be nice to yourself, be nice to others, have a solid goal, enjoy the way, and don't advise people in topics where you just read books like how to ride a bicycle or how to raise children. It's very nice that you have great advice, but if you have never ever had any children, your advice is not really welcome, because it puts even more pressure on, because you give the parent the idea that the parent is a kind of stupid person, not being able to handle that. But if you have been living with the kids for 10, 15, 17 years, your perspective on all those great advices from books might change, and your kids might be totally different, and therefore somebody else, even if they have kids, might not be a help, because every human being, as you know, is totally different. Start with the most important human being, with yourself. Just be a great self-leader before you can lead others. And we will see and hear you again next week with episode 59. Have a wonderful week. Till soon. Bye-bye.
Have a great week. Bye. Thank you.